Hey, let's answer some Twitter questions. First question. I have recently interviewed and received an offer from a job using C# for backend and React for front end. The interview was intense. Do employers usually throw more at the interviewees during technical interviews than what would be expected on a regular day at the job? Short answer is yes. They'll throw everything at you, including the kitchen sink, and they just want to test your knowledge. It depends on the employer, though, but typically, especially larger organizations, because when you're working for larger organizations, they have HR departments where they're ticking off boxes, and there's a tendency in those circumstances that they're going to ask you for everything. I remember back when I would pay closer attention to these things, way back, I would pay much closer attention to these things. And I remember looking at job requirements that the HR departments would post. It was silly. They would ask for everything. Put in today's terms, they might say, okay, we need you to know C#.net, React, Angular. You should be a specialist in Vue. It's good if you have Java knowledge. You know Python and AI, that'd be great too. If you got into TensorFlow, and if you knew MySQL, MariaDB, and maybe some MongoDB on top of that. If you had experience with Laravel, that'd be an added bonus. And if you knew C++ and C and had experience building Death Stars, then that would be great. And they would have these crazy requirements. This is silly. And you go in for the job, and the job is you have to just create some web pages. That's it. You just have to create a few web pages. Maybe talk to a MySQL database. That's pretty much your job. But they wanted you to be able to create, know all these other things. When you work for smaller companies, smaller organizations, it tend to be more accurate in terms of what the requirements that are stated for the job are relative to the actual job. So in other words, when you go interview for a smaller company, you're probably going to be talking to the developer right away, the lead developer or one of the leads, and you're going to be questioned on what they're doing specifically. So if they're a React house, you're going to be doing React, and they'll ask you a few questions here and there, and they may test you out, but it'll be less formal. So that's the thing you have to contend with. And unfortunately, a lot of times, a lot of the testing that people put out there to test potential employees is not accurate relative to what actually happens in the real world. Though, for example, they may do silly tests like want to see your knowledge of algorithms and so on. And I guess it shows a deep knowledge of the language, but if you're getting into deep algorithm creation, but the fact of the matter, in real world programming, most of the time you're not really writing very complex algorithms, right? The complexity in coding has to do with architecture and just being able to write clean code that's simple and easy to understand. That's the real skill, not being able to create these complex algorithms that solve mathematical equations. That's silly. So yeah, having super hard to do technical tests when they're interviewing you, that's not uncommon. So you got to bone up, as I said in other videos, if you're going in for a job, you should find out what that company is doing in terms of their work. So when you go in there, you can ask them questions about their own product development and so forth. That will impress them. Always works on me. And yeah, there you go. Bob's your uncle. You research them. You make sure you know what they're doing. Obviously, you're going to see the requirements. Bone up on that. Make sure you understand the language fairly well. And if you have an interview in a week or so, maybe spend like 3 hours a day or 2 hours a day before the interview, boning up on whatever language, whatever frameworks they happen to be using at that time. Generally speaking, as I always say, if you know your fundamentals of software development and programming and coding, to learn a new framework, to learn a new language, if you will, or to bone up on a language. Not that difficult. New libraries. It's because it's all pretty similar. You know, as somebody said in one of the comments, if you're a programmer, you're a programmer. That's it. You program with whatever language they throw at you, because they're just tools, these languages. All right, I hope that helps. Bye. Oh, man. Hey, though the weather is crappy in one respect because we have freezing rain, but in February it's above 0, which is crazy hot for Montreal. So hey, I'm enjoying it. I have to tell you.